Good afternoon. Welcome to AI Would Agree. Good to see everybody here again. Hopefully you're following us live. You've managed to get some time out of work in between doing all the horrible emails that you must be sending. Sorry, guys. Yeah, but at least you're going to have a little bit of fun with us today. Today's show is a little bit out of the ordinary. And I'm sure that there's more than a few of you sat at home wondering, what on earth has Paul got a museum onto a show that traditionally talks about customer service and customer experience? Now, the museum that I'm about to introduce you to, the head of retail for, Matthew, is very close to my heart because it's from just up the road, the Museum of Beamish. I'll introduce you now, Matthew. Hello, welcome to the stream. You all right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
No problem at all. It's an absolute privilege. Anybody who knows me knows that all I bang on about going anywhere on a weekend, 9 times out of 10, they know I'm coming to Beamish with my little man. Because hands on heart, my 4-year-old absolutely worships you lot. He's very much interested in cogs and how things work and old machinery and steam trains, trams. So for anybody who is from outside of the northeast of the country, Beamish Museum is a fantastic open-air museum here. It's one of the jewels of the northeast. Hands on heart, one of the best value for money packages that you can get. It's like £20 per adult for an all-year ticket for a friend's membership. Highly recommended if you haven't been and you are from the northeast or you're traveling here soon. Matthew, like, you guys have gone from strength to strength to strength over the last few years. And I remember visiting, you guys have been open since the 70s. I remember visiting when I was a kid in the 80s. My mum brought like my older brother and sister. It's come a long, long way from what it ever was. But before we get into any of that, how did you get into working in a museum in retail, Matthew? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, thanks for such a lovely introduction, and your support is amazing. I mean, you and me are always in LinkedIn sort of DMs, like with different ideas and what we're working on here. So yeah, thanks for that. So a bit of sort of backstory. I grew up, my grandma ran a local nature reserve cafe and gift shop, and I used to go along there on a weekend. And through that, I started doing falconry. So I'd train eagles and vultures and go to agricultural shows and that kind of stuff. And then through that, I realised that I liked working with the public, and I was doing a business qualification at sixth form, and they said, we have this opportunity, you can go to Beamish. They said it the whole class, somebody will have to dress up, you'll have to go along and work with the public. And in all honesty, I was mortified to think that I was going to have to go and wear a flat cap and picturing what are they going to dress me as, but instantly sort of found the career for me, really. And I came here on work experience 11 years ago now. And then I've worked in a variety of different roles leading to this one, which is the head of commercial operations and development. So that's looking after all our income generating areas. So yeah, basically from training owls to going on work experience somehow brought us to this point.
It's amazing how many of my guests that I speak to who have a genuine passion for what they do almost accidentally fell into the role that they're doing. But wouldn't swap it for the world, myself included. It's obviously my background's in retail, hence why you and me have so many conversations offline. But yeah, it's amazing how many people find their passion almost by accident. It's almost too canny to not be true.
Yeah, completely. My mum said to me a few weeks ago that when I was little, anytime she took me for a day out, I would always go and look in the gift shop in the end and was more bothered about the rubbers and the pencils. And she said it wasn't until like a couple of years ago she realised, it was always in him, that sort of weird interest in gift shops and tourism. So yeah, it's funny, and then just naturally fell into it, really. And I'm really glad that I did.
I think it is, I think very much similar experience myself. I remember going up to Jarrow Monastery in Newcastle when I was a kid, and I remember that the gift shop there was just like phenomenal because it was in the old-fashioned sort of church setting, and it was just really, really like. I remember as a kid, like I didn't really think too much about it. I just enjoyed being there. But now when I think back, it's like between the Beamish gift shop and Jarrow Monastery and places like that, it was like some of my favourite memories from being a kid. I used to collect rubbers, so like
rubbers and magnets. That's what everyone. Yeah, it still happens. So.
Fantastic. So, like, honestly, Matthew, you guys have been on a real roller coaster journey over the last couple of years, like as has everybody with COVID and everything that's happened. I know you guys were planning on some big expansions. You had your 50th anniversary planned right in the middle of it all, and yet you guys have come out the back and winning awards. So talk us through the journey. What's happened? Like, how did COVID impact you guys to start with?
Yeah, so to start with, it was terrifying, really. We're 95% self-funded. It costs tens of millions to run the site every year. We have a collection of objects that we want to care for. We have animals. Ultimately, we have staff. So those things were at the front of our mind as we sort of were forced to close the gates, and in doing so, close all our income stream. So our CEO quite quickly thought about how we could respond to that. So we came back, and I think there was about 10 of us working at the time out of 300 plus. So we were literally sort of like feeding cats and walking horses and letting the plumber in, kind of thing. But what we started to do was think about how we could drive some income and connect with our audience. And then we've been on a real journey. So it started with an online shop where we didn't want people to just be able to buy from traditional categories like giftware and children. We wanted them to have the same experience as if they were visiting the museum. So click into the sweet shop, buy the sweets from the sweet shop, the bakery, the stationer's shop, and the like. So it was about keeping that that experience. The funny thing about doing it is it felt a little bit like, if you've seen The Apprentice, it was like an episode of The Apprentice, because suddenly we wanted to build this online shop with no budget, no platform, and just like basically two of us and a laptop, kind of thing. And that really set us on a journey that's been a couple of years now, and has changed everything for me and for the sort of team and the wider museum.
Yeah, and George the cat, right? What a hero he is.
Yeah.
Like, my little man was devastated when he realised he'd been collected and took home. But like, it's the little things like that you really didn't appreciate about COVID when it first happened.
It was quite haunting at times to walk along like the empty town street, and suddenly there was weeds going through the cobbles, and where we were so used to, we were used to being on the site when there's nobody here and early morning, late night, but to be in sort of peak summer, lovely days, and it's midday, and it's suddenly eerily quiet. There's no ringing of the tram. There's no hooter going off to the mine, and ultimately there's no visitors and our team and our colleagues. So yeah, at times it was like real sadness, but I think we saw it as such an opportunity to try and save us and to drive income. So yeah, it was a real roller coaster.
But I think what really surprised me was like, to what you're saying there, the response from you guys and from the team in terms of wanting to really turn it from something that was really a tragedy for the museum, for the charity, and turn it into something that could be a massive success. And you've fantastically smashed that out the park with, it's clear from some of the awards you're winning just now. So tell us about some of the initiatives that you've done and how you got where you are. Like, it's a fascinating story. And for anybody who's watching this at home, like, it's the customer experience that these guys deliver that's really set them apart. So I'm hoping that there's some kind of takeaway points at the end of it that we can kind of share with people that, no matter what your business is, the considerations are still the same. Retail's still retail. Customers still need to be served, but it's about how you embody that within the business and the spirit within the business that really brings that to life.
Yeah, completely agree. And for us, it's that real genuine connection with our communities, with the local, the national, the international, and particularly that Northeast community that we represent. So our split is about 50% local visitors, 50% national. So what we wanted to do is come up with ways such as the online shop, so people could buy sweets, and we saw so quickly people were sending them as gifts. So we added a gift note section, and the notes people were sending to friends and family across the UK and around the world about their connections, and they wish they were at Beamish together, and they wish they were seeing George the cat, and all this kind of stuff. So that started us thinking, well, could we do things like afternoon teas in the local area? So we started with our bakery team came back, our amazing engagers who are people that dress up in the costumes and normally are in a shop or an exhibit, a house, telling you about the past. They were going out with a van and delivering. We delivered 1,300 afternoon teas to within a 20-mile radius over about a month. So that's like visiting the family of visiting the home of every family that comes on a bank holiday. And there was literally real tears of gratitude as these people were receiving gifts from their friends and family. And I think it was quite a motive for that team who, in the middle of lockdown, suddenly became Beamish on tour, really.
Yeah.
Then we did stuff online. So we were doing school lessons online for not only schools around the world, but homeschoolers. So we when everyone, and every parent got sick of homeschooling, is we were taking hundreds of children on these video calls, and our Victorian head teacher was putting them through their paces. We did sweet making live. We did a golden ticket initiative. We started selling sweets to Phoenix and to the local farm shops when the retail's back open. So we did all sorts in sort of response to it. And then from that, as we've sort of started to reopen the museum and as part of our recovery, we've created outdoor market stalls. We've tweaked offers. We've started supporting local providers and suppliers to bring their product to market more. So we've worked across it all, and it's really, we've kept the best bits of that now. So the online shop and thinking about wholesale and online content. So it was basically have a go at anything, but the heart of it was, how do you connect with that audience? How do we keep in touch with those, whether it's school children who don't know that we wanted to keep in touch with them because they had a school visit planned, or whether it's people that have been visiting like yourself for years, to make sure that audience was hopefully still going to be here to support us when we could finally unlock those gates.
Yeah, and I think you did it fantastically well throughout all of it. What really set me aside and like what I really admired about what you guys did was you were constantly thinking outside the box. So things that had been a given for years was that, everything got paid in cash. There was no card payments and all that side of things. And not only did you guys move to contactless payments like across the estate, but you actually found a way to make signs that were like old-fashioned in nature to make a bit of fun about the fact that we've taught the Victorians to use contactless payments. And it was fantastic because everybody knew that it wasn't like the way you guys wanted to do things, but by making light of it, everybody felt on board with the whole thing. And I think there was a great sense of community when you guys came back. I mean, I remember being involved in a Facebook altercation at one point when somebody suggested that they should be getting a refund because you guys had been closed. And there was, all hell broke loose on Facebook because this person had suggested that. And it was like, guys, they're a charity who are doing fantastically well and need our support. And if anything, we should be, trying to give them more money now that they're closed because, they're not sort of, you never think about things like the horses and the animals and things like that. They need constant, like whether you guys are open or not, they need paying. They need feeding and they need looking.
And things like water bills and electricity and all that sort of stuff that comes into it, and like the hundreds of staff that we have on the books and working, and it was the support from people was amazing. And we were getting letters off children who were saying they were sending us like sweets in the post to keep us going. And I think COVID, one thing that we did see is we've always had a great community spirit here, but I think for me, I was used to seeing 6,000 visitors, and the moment they stopped, it made you once again think of them as individuals and why they're here, how are they supporting us. And that's what we keep at the heart of everything, is about putting that visitor first. So no matter what's going on, they're always the number one, and that drives everything across the whole organisation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think what's also fair is you guys have captured every part of the customer journey. So I don't think there's any part of that journey that people go on with you guys now where there isn't a lot of consideration given to what the impacts are further down the line. Like, you guys know that by keeping your ticket prices low, people will be able to afford to come in regularly and spend within the park, and gladly do that. And I think you guys capitalize on the sorts of things that people would want to buy, not just for themselves, but as presents. I've seen you do the chocolate houses at Valentine's and over Christmas and things like that. I mean, it's phenomenal. And it's clear to see that there's a lot of creative thinkers within the team.
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the best things about working at Beamish is the people that have that creative spirit are allowed to foster it really and use it. So you can come up with these mad ideas like putting Father Christmas on Zoom for 13 hours a day. And as long as we can sort of make it work, generally we can do it. And I think that's lovely. And the amazing thing about working here is we have such pockets of knowledge everywhere. So, for instance, the curator that looks after transport could easily suggest to bring in 200 vintage vehicles, and that could happen tomorrow. And we've got a real spirit here that people can come up with ideas and present things. So we've done a lot of work with our sweet shop, post-COVID, if that's the sort of term now, of looking at the experience in there, because we had limited numbers and pre-bagged sweets, and we wanted the magic back really in the traditional sweet shop. And all of the things we did came from the staff and volunteers that work in there. So one gentleman sent me 16 pages of ideas on what we could do, and it was a case of going through everyone's feedback and picking, right, well, let's look at, do we put a menu in so when people are waiting outside, they can start to make some sort of decision. People are always asking for that kind of thing. When you're inside the shop, can we divide it down so that rather than everyone pushing to the front and trying to grab a member of staff, that actually the queue is outside, and then you go in and you get your time with the member of staff. And we've seen like increases of sort of between 84 and 100% on the take-ins, but actually for us it wasn't about that. It was about that customer experience and about bringing the magic back in. And if what follows from that, from my point of view, is income generation for the charity, then that's even better. But the visitors lead everything, and yeah, we're very, very fortunate that we have such creative people and amazing designers and curators, and these people are allowed to just create really.
It's amazing what happens when you empower your people to make their own decisions and to be in charge of their own destiny, almost. Give people an inch, let them take the mile as long as it's within the frameworks, and see what magic can happen. And again, I take that back to, look at the contact center world, which is where I traditionally talk to a lot of people in this show. And I think it's fair to say that the businesses that are doing really well are the ones that really embody the spirit of the brand that they're trying to represent, and they let their people do that to an extent.
Yeah, definitely. We're a museum of the people, for the people, really. So, I'm very fortunate in my job. So, we have an ice cream kiosk that always sold vanilla ice cream. And driving into work one day, I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if that was the sweet shop of the ice cream world? So if we could do sweet shop flavored ice cream, and we could get locally made rhubarb and custard and cinder toffee and a chocolate fudge ice cream. And it's literally a conversation with the CEO, who's my manager, some costings on it doing, and then we can create this thing with the skill that we have here. So the maintenance team dropped onto it for 4 weeks, and we went from being sort of a green hut that sold ice cream quite humbly to something that is now people are coming especially for it. And I love that just came from an idea driving in, and then becomes almost like for 4 weeks we've become, our whole life is ice cream. And then next month there'll be another project that comes about, and then my manager always laughs that every time I'm like, it's the best thing we've ever come up with, I've got this idea, and she always says, yeah, this week, and then we'll do that, achieve that, and move on to the next. So but yeah, I'm grateful that we're allowed that opportunity to sort of shape, and it's an honor. There's millions of people come here for fun and have real emotive connections with it, and it's a real honor that we get to be a part of creating that sort of magic for them. So like when you say about bringing your son, like, and you'll have had family photos and memories, like for a lot of people that come and visit, they might have had one of the ice creams we've come up with, or they might have bought something or done something that we've come up with. And especially with Father Christmas Zoom calls, like I saw parents in floods of tears with the emotion of that, and that feels like a real honour, I think, to be involved with.
Yeah, 100%. And the same when you guys brought Father Christmas back physically as well. Like I remember standing in a queue for like an hour, and it was with a 4-year-old. That is the longest queue in the world, I promise you. But like the guys were up and down with like lollipops and like trying to engage the kids and stuff. It wasn't just you were dumped in a queue and have to get on with it. There's like carol singing going on. There's like you say, engagers walking past and talking to the kids and stuff, and everybody's like kind of part of that whole community spirit. Even when you stood in the queue, like everybody stood talking to each other, and you've got lots in common, and you've all got memories of the place. And I'm right in saying you guys are winning awards as well right now as well.
Yeah, we're very honoured. Yeah, so we've just won Best Shop in the National Museum and Heritage Awards. So that was for we put some market stalls out in the town street when we couldn't open the exhibits, and because of social distancing and whatever sort of rules Boris had at the time, and we wanted to be very cautious and respectful. So we did outdoor market stalls, and it changed everything. At times, the retail was up 4,000%. And the visitor experience was amazing. People were buying locally made food and drink that had packaging that was based on originals in our collection. And it's a real credit to the team who've stood out there for 2 years in literally all weathers, and every morning have carried the stock out, every night put that stock away, and helped sort of shape it all. So because we won the award, we've decided to build them a permanent stall with a roof on it, and that's the sort of real prize for them. So there'll be more of locking up rather than carrying around. So that'll be exciting.
For anybody who's watching this and isn't familiar with the area, Beamish is based in the coldest part of the UK, definitely. Like, it can be summer here on the coast in the northeast, and it will be snowing at Beamish. There's no doubt about it. It is bitter at Stanley in concert, unless it decides it's not going to be, in which case it's absolutely glorious. It is the two extremes of weather there all the time.
We do Christmas evenings, so people can pay to come in on an evening, and there's music and Father Christmas. And one night I was in there, and it was -12 when we were leaving, which is because we were in a bowl. And the reason we're in a bowl is because the founding director picked the spot where you couldn't see a lot of modern life around it. And at the time, he looked at the flight paths and everything like that. But it means we are in this sort of little world of our own almost, and it's a climate of our own at times as well. For an April Fools, we put out that we were building a glass roof on it, and we still get people asking when that's going on. So
what's happen? And there's expansions going on as well. So like I've been down and seen the new like the hairdressers, John's Cafe, and the new chip shop and things like that. Tell us what exciting things is coming in the future for Beamish.
Yeah, so we're all about living memories. We want grandparents to be able to bring their grandchildren and tell their story. So we're building a 1950s town. So like the ones you listed is part of that. And they're open now and then coming online. So in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be announcing about when the recreation ground will open. So we'll have miniature golf and a little play park and sandpit for the kids. Then there's a bowling green coming, there's a cinema, there's a toy shop, an electrical shop, there's semi-detached houses, a bowling pavilion, there's police houses, so huge expansions there. We've just opened a 1950s farm, and then I've just started working on accommodation, so you'll be able to come and stay overnight with us, essentially, stay for a week or a weekend in our Georgian area. So we won't put fleas in your bed and we'll give you Wi-Fi, but it'll certainly feel like an experience staying there. And we hope people will be able to explore the museum site on a morning, on an evening, maybe we'll do tours. And that's quite a fun project now for us is we used to visitors being here between 10 and 5 or in the evening events. But actually now, when we've got them for 24 hours a day, what fun things can we do? So I'm wondering if rather than Uber Eats, maybe it's going to be Beamish Eats and you can order food down there. And all these things are just going through our heads at the moment. But next year we'll be opening a number of cottages where you can come and stay with us.
Fantastic. That sounds truly amazing. And, you know, like, hands on heart, like I don't really go big on people plugging their business on the show, because that's not really what it's about. It's about customer experience and customer service. But, you know, in such a worthwhile investment in people's time, like I'm, you know, like proud to have you guys on the show and talking about what, you know, I would love to see businesses out there. And I think we were pretty close last week, mind, when we had Sarah Adderley on talking about her relationship with Lemon Contact Centre. There was clearly a lot of love between the two businesses, with like the whole of Lemon Contact Centre, I think, were watching and giving Sarah cheer on in the comments and things like that. It's great to see businesses have such a brilliant relationship with their customers that they get excited and passionate about how they can next improve their experience. And all too often it becomes a problem to be solved, and you know, wait until something happens. When a problem arrives, then dealing with it. I feel like you guys have quite a lot of proactivity about, you know, like, and probably spurred on all the more now by what happened over COVID, is not sitting on your laurels and waiting for the next thing to come, but actually getting ahead of the curve now and thinking about, you know, remove the box, what's outside of it, and how can we get there.
Yeah, completely. And like you said at the start, it's about empowering those teams that are here to be able to do that and come up with those ideas. So like I was speaking to Sam, who looks after access to the museum, so making sure engaging all, and the work she's doing to try and include people that are living with autism, the work we do with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, and these are real pockets of skill that just allow that inclusion. And then in terms of sort of visitor feedback and responding to the next thing, we don't do anything unless the visitors want it. So like the ice cream thing, it's about making sure our visitors going to want this. Are they asking for this? Because they're the reason we're here. It's their museum. It's just that we get the honour of sort of looking after it, really. So it's a lot of speaking to them and the teams on the ground feeding ideas back. but all that 1950s development is all based on real communities. So like when we opened the terrace, like I was fortunate enough to present the opening, and I was interviewing people who lived in those houses, who worked in those shops, and for them to stand there and that building be recreated and tell their story. I mean, there's not many places like that in the world, and that it's like a hairs on the back of your neck moment, really, when you see that. I always remember we moved a church from Middlesbrough, and we translocate a lot of the time, so we'll move them brick by brick, stone by stone. And that church was being vandalised when it was taken down in the 90s. It was in a state of disrepair. And seeing the Reverend come back around in 2014 and see his church rebuilt in this picturesque valley was just like a moment I'll never forget. And he was in floods of tears when he saw it. So you get those real amazing opportunities and those moments. And looking forward, so we're building a 1950s cinema. And before we took down the cinema that we're moving and taking inspiration from, we went and said to anyone, if you want one last look, just come and see us, kind of thing. And the stories we met, one sticks in my head was this gentleman came in and he said, I sat here in this seat in this cinema in the 1950s. And he said, there was a lady sat in front of me with this big daft hat on. And he said, she was my age. And he said, I knocked it off her head. And I said, how are you, man? I cannot see the screen. And I said, all right. And he said, she turned around and was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. And I said, oh, what happened? He said, I'm married to her. And she came in. So they'd met in that cinema in that weird sort of slightly aggressive moment of knocking her hat off. And I said to them, you've got to come and have another first date, like at the museum when we rebuild that cinema. And it's about finding those moments with those people. And that's why we need to sell ice cream, really, to carry that on.
No, and it is completely some of the stories that I've seen, like, you know, and again, like my son, like I'm going, Leo, I've got Matthew on my show tomorrow, like, you know how Daddy does a show, and he's like, Matthew from Beamish, like, yeah, he was like, he was opening shops on TV. I was like, yeah, he was, because we watched you live opening the street. It was like, and so that's now part of our story as well, and it goes on. Like, you guys have got a Nissan Micra in storage. Right, I know, because I remember it being there when, like, and I remember it being donated to the museum. And I remember as a kid going to the Nissan car factory up the road and seeing those cars being made when it was Car of the Year and all that sort of thing. I mean, I never want to have a Nissan Micra. Sorry, Nissan, but you know, the fact that you've already got one of those in storage that's probably now 20 years old itself, waiting to become part of history is just phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, our colleagues from Tyne and Weir Museums and Archives have a store, and that's one of their objects that they keep here. And it's always the excitement for us going and seeing it. And we're collecting all the time. So, Dan, who's our head of collections, he's a little bit more selective in our collecting now. So, for instance, we have hundreds of flat irons, and we have nowhere to put any more. But now he's looking at, right, what objects do we need to tell the 1950s story? What objects do we need for the 1980s? Julian, that works in our collection, still keeps an Argos catalogue or an IKEA catalogue every year, because at some point there's going to be a Julian working here that needs to create the story of 2020 as well, so that people that, like I say, can tell their own history. And particularly the work we do with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, that long-term memory is often still there, and we get referrals from the NHS for the work we do with that. And there's a gentleman that always sticks in my head. He was called Brian. He sadly passed away now. And Brian came, he was basically on shutdown. So he was watching telly, he had dementia, that was it. He'd finished as a wagon driver. And he came and joined out one of our men's groups, which is for people with a bit of extra time on their hands. And he soon became the chief tea maker, the chief whatever. He was everything he could do brilliantly. And his long-term memory was there. And it sparked something in him that he actually ended up signing up as a volunteer. And 3 days a week he'd work with a garden team. And the doctors and nurses said to us that it's hard to prove, really, that the effect that Beamish had, but his dementia didn't decline like we would normally see. And that's why we sell ice cream, really, for those moments.
That's an amazing way of putting it. I love that phrase, Matthew. It's beautiful. It really is. And I hope everybody who's watching this, who maybe started off watching it wondering a little bit why Paul had invited Matthew. Yeah, like hopefully now it all makes sense a little bit, and I hope that the people watching this can kind of take away a little bit of your enthusiasm and passion for what you do and apply it to what they do, because like that's at the heart of a good business. That's what it's all about. It's not just about, like what the success that you guys have isn't just because you're a charity. It's not just because you're a museum. It's not just because you tell a story and you're very fortunate in what you're involved in. That can happen in any business, providing that you've got the right culture, the right brand, and the right empowerment of your employees to be able to tell that story, and some nice stories to tell along the way. I think the best businesses have stories. When I look at Nike have leadership courses where they learn to tell stories to their teams, and that's what leadership's about at Nike is being able to tell those stories and hear other people's stories and bring people along the journey. Fantastic to speak to you, Matthew. Like, I've really enjoyed the conversation more than I expected, to be honest.
Well, thanks so much for the support. We all really appreciate your support, so thank you for that.
Beamish #1 fan.
And we send you a rubber for your collection.
I'll put it with my clippy mat. Great to speak to everyone. I hope everybody got some value from the show. Matthew, all the best with what's to come over the next year. It sounds like you've got some really exciting initiatives about to land. I'll be there to see them as soon as we can. And in the meantime, if anybody would like to find out any more information about what Matthew's doing, they'd like to kind of be inspired by you, like, are you happy for people to kind of contact you via LinkedIn and reach out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, the museum's on LinkedIn, and then we're across all social medias as well. So yeah, if we can do anything at all, then yeah, do get in touch.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you got some use out of it. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.